The African American Legend series highlights the accomplishments of blacks in areas varied as politics, sports, aviation, business, literature, and education. We will explore how African Americans have succeeded in areas where they've been previously excluded because of segregation, racism, and lack of opportunity. I'm your host, Dr. Roscoe C. Brown, Jr., and with us today is Dr. Wendy Ward, the CEO and founder of Mpower Productions. Hi, Wendy. Glad to have you with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. I appreciate you having me here. It's a
Now,
pleasure.
you are a doctor who's really a doctor.
Yes, I am.
You're an anesthesiologist and a graduate of Mount Sinai and all those great places. Tell me, why and how did you start Mpower, and Mpower is Mpower, okay?
I started Mpower Productions in response to the idea that as a physician, I'm a healer. And it's important to heal not only physically, but to heal the mind and the spirit as well. And I had a divine prophecy to start Mpower Productions to empower youth and promote healing for humanity, empower them to live their dreams, which I believe is a precursor toward achieving world love and peace. And that's really how Mpower began, as a desire to heal humanity.
What was the pivotal thing that caused you to decide that this divine providence said you should start Mpower? What one thing made an impression on you?
The one thing that made an impression on me is I had been a physician for 7 years, and I just woke up one day and I said, you know, I have been blessed with so many other talents. I'm a songwriter, I'm an athlete, I'm a screenwriter, I'm an author. I have all of these talents. Medicine can't be all that I'm supposed to do to, succeed in life and help make the world a better place. I can offer and do more. For ye who receives many gifts, of you much shall be required. So I just had this epiphany that there's more for me to do. And Mpower and the mission behind Mpower is what came to my thought process for doing what I'm meant to do in the world. In other words, my divine mission.
Yeah, what are some of the things that made Wendy Ward so inspirational?
You know, I've been blessed with people around me who are inspirational. I have mentors that I look up to, like you, a Tuskegee Airman with such an impressive legacy. My parents as well. My father's a physician, my mother's a teacher. Dr. Martin Luther King is an inspiration, Mahatma Gandhi. Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm, who is my neighbor. She lived across the street from me where I grew up on President Street in Crown Heights in Brooklyn. So all of these people have pretty much laid the foundation on what I could be and what I should be to motivate others and help us all become elevated in society and promote the idea of love and peace in our world.
But you also have multiple talents. You have been a basketball player,
yes,
a performer, a writer.
Absolutely.
How did you transfer your activity in basketball to medicine?
It's very interesting. When I was very young, I would say in early elementary school, it's interesting because I wasn't the best of students, and a lot of people are surprised to hear me say that. When I found basketball at the age of 7, that motivated me to excel in everything. So sports was really a springboard or a platform that propelled me into wanting to succeed in everything. And as I had mentioned before, that Walt Frazier was my idol, and he wore the number 10, and I always wore number 10. And I actually turned that into a motivational mantra, having the power of 10, the 1 to make my dreams come true, and 0 can stop me when I'm in pursuit. So I became motivated to live all my dreams, not only be an entertainer, not only play basketball, but to heal humanity, and medicine was a part of that.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the problems of today's youth that Mpower tries to address?
I think the major problem among youth is lack of opportunity. Mpower seeks to even the playing field of opportunity for youth to live their dreams. It equalizes everything so that if a child has a dream, he can live that dream because I motivate that child to say, I am born with a purpose, I am skilled, I have the hardware like a computer, I have the hardware, the ability and the talent to live my purpose and fulfill my divine destiny. I provide them with the software. There's a lot of negative programming out there, so I reprogram them with positivity and can-do power for success.
But the parents of the basic software, how do you deal with the situation where parents are not involved and there's a lot of negativity surrounding that particular community.
That's a very good question. And those are some of the things that I sought to solve. So I invite the parents to participate in the process of Empower. I invited them to come to the presentations so they become a part of it. I also encourage the kids to speak to their parents about what we're doing through Empower. Take that lesson home, because learning is a team effort. We all have to participate in success and moving forward as a people. So I have the kids encourage the parents and invite the parents to encourage the kids. So we're all learning together.
Well, tell us exactly how Empower works. Where do you do it? How do you do it? And when do you do it?
In 2008, I created a program called the Empower Ballers Reach to Teach Motivational Curriculum. It is a curriculum that uses sports, music, entertainment, technology, and the hip-hop or pop culture to reach students. I speak their language. Once I speak their language and reach them in a manner that they are accustomed to, I am now able to teach them. And
Well, how do you reach them in their language?
Well, I tell them how to live their dreams, and that's built on a basic formula that I created, that all you have to do is add you plus this program plus hard work equals dreams realized and success. So it's a basic formula that I devised called the Empower Fabulous 4 Formula for Success.
Now, let's hear that again.
The Empower Fabulous 4 Formula for Success.
Okay, now what are those elements?
Okay, 4 simple elements. Number 1, you prepare the mind and spirit of the child. That means you remove all of the negativity and reprogram them with positive can-do power.
How do you do that?
Okay, I give them inspirational works and things and to think about, to work on, to empower them to think positively about themselves. One of them I spoke about was the Power of 10 mantra, the 1 to make my dreams come true and 0 can stop me when I'm in pursuit. I helped them to understand through song, through entertainment, that they are equipped to live their dreams. They have all the tools they need inside of themselves to do everything they're meant to do.
Well, given the negativity that so many of them face, how do you convince them that they have this power?
I convince them through my own story and through the stories of others. I tell them to look at the biography of so many of our legends today. Nobody, including yourself, have gotten to where we are without the struggle, without the obstacles. The key is to try and overcome those obstacles, for I believe an obstacle is something you see when you lose sight of your goals. So I tell them they're not the only ones with obstacles. Yes, obstacles vary from person to person, but we all have them. And it's important to look to how other people have overcome those obstacles and know that you can overcome your obstacles as well.
Who is the best role model that you give them?
Well, there are so many. I really can't give them one. I try to help them identify with people who are their contemporaries, because kids are very concrete. Some of the legends they may know of by name. Dr. Martin Luther King. Okay, heard about him. He's some old guy from before. But I try to give them current legends, current young people that are doing positive things.
Example?
Beyonce, C.E.O., Russell Simmons.
They're all in entertainment.
Yes, they're in entertainment, but this is where they're locked into.
Okay.
So through that, you lead them into wanting to investigate other educational people in education and in other walks of life. But they're into entertainment. If I speak about things that they're not interested in, I lose them as an audience. And I've found that I can speak with them about other things when I use things that they know about.
Well, you're a physician, you're a
Yes.
scientist. What about using some of the elements of science and creativity to get their attention?
And I do, but I can only do that once I hook them into the things that they love, and that's sports, entertainment, technology. You see kids on the phone all the time, texting and using Facebook, so I reach them where they are.
Okay, go to step 2.
Step 2 is to decide and plan on what your dream is. Follow your passion, you find your dreams. You have to decide on what that is and make a plan. Plan means making short-term and long-term goals and in a stepwise fashion getting to the next point, and just methodically in a scientific manner moving forward through those goals and checking them off like a checklist.
Well, do you have them write them down?
Absolutely. I have them write them down and list those things prior to starting the course, to list their dreams, what their desires are. I give them actually a questionnaire, and it asks a variety of questions. What is your dream? What is the greatest obstacle you think you have to that dream? I want them to start thinking of where they are and thinking about where they are and how they can utilize life and things to get over those obstacles to get to where they need to be. So the first is to prepare their minds, remove the negativity, implant the positivity. Second step, decide and on the dream and plan by setting goals.
What do you do about their own responsibility for their own future?
They are completely responsible for their own future.
But how do you communicate that to them?
Because just like the mantra, the power of 10, they are the ones to make their dreams come true, and 0 can stop them when they're in pursuit. To use creative visualization and think positively about their outcome, to know that they are gifted, they are talent, they are great. Whenever I speak with young people, I always tell them, you're great, you're special, you're unique, you're equipped. And I help them to believe that by giving examples of other people, including me.
What about success experiences on their own? In order for people to believe they can do something, they have to have some success. So what kind of experiences do you give them so they can show some success?
Well, I help them speak about things that they've done in the past that they've achieved at. Any little thing, anything they've accomplished, whether it's playing baseball and I hit a home run, or if I just couldn't hit it all and I bunted, or I played basketball and I made my first shot. I try to give them concrete things that they've already experienced. You went to school, you got an A in school, or maybe you started out with a C and you've studied harder and now you have a B, then you've moved up to an A. These are things that they've accomplished, and I use those small goals to let them know, you see, you can achieve.
Well, how do you counter the fact that in some minority communities, it's not cool to be smart? You're acting white if you do your homework. How do you counter that?
You know, it's very interesting. I counter that by something that I do in my programs called the Halloween Ball. And I'm not going to give away all of the vignettes to that, but it talks about bullying, which is a huge problem in our communities. And we bully because there's a history, sometimes there's a history of bullying, or it looks cool to bully or be the one to stroke your ego by oppressing others, which is something that we've seen throughout history. And basically, what I let them know is, if you don't embrace certain people or other people who may be different from you, or that you feel that you don't have a commonality with, you're actually doing yourself a disservice. This may be the very person that helps you get over a certain hump that you may have. How will you know? So I always say when you meet people, you have to be colorblind, and colorblind means without prejudice. If you close your eyes and meet someone and don't open your eyes and don't look at who they are physically, you can understand who they are as a person. When you open your eyes, you may see someone and you're shocked. Physically, they're totally different from you. And you're like, wow, if I had looked at you with my physical eyes first, I would never have known how much I had in common with you. And I wouldn't have learned things that you may be able to teach me. So I say, see with your heart, see with your soul. And I encourage kids to do that. Don't put somebody out because you think you don't have anything in common. You do.
Now, you created a film or a video called The Mirror. What is the concept of the mirror?
The concept of the mirror is just what I just spoke about. When you look at others, you look for a commonality. That's what people do as human beings.
Why do you call it the mirror?
I call it the mirror because when you look in the mirror, you'll see yourself, but you'll also see others looking back at you. Mm-hmm. And if you are looking with your eyes, or your spiritual eyes rather than your physical eyes. So the mirror is sort of like a pun that when you look in the mirror, you see yourself. But if you look at others, that's also a mirror, because you will see yourself in others if you see them with your heart and your spirit.
Well, you've gone through 2 steps of Empower. What's the third?
Okay, so the third step in the formula is to work hard and never quit. Just like sports, just like life, it is laden with obstacles and negativity and everything that tries to prevent us from achieving our goals. So you're going to have to work hard, and when the defense gets up on you, you're going to have to work hard, dribble around them, or find another way to get around those obstacles. It's just like the game of life.
What kind of examples do you give them?
In terms of overcoming
working hard and overcoming obstacles.
I give them the examples of personal experience. I've had many obstacles. I said
you also had some positives, like parents and President Street and things like that.
Absolutely. But you know something, I've realized everybody has obstacles. I don't care what walk of life you come from. Let's start with basketball. Basketball was my passion. I actually wanted to be a professional basketball player and play with Walt Clyde Frazier as a kid. And people said, Wendy, first of all, you're a girl. You can't play basketball. But I was a gifted ball player. And then they said, well, you're too short. But I managed to get one of the few scholarships for basketball to a Division I school, University of Massachusetts, something somebody said that I would never be able to achieve. That's an obstacle. People told me I couldn't do it. So against all odds, I did what people said I couldn't.
Well, other than sports, give me another example that you would use.
Another example is the biggest one, my profession, the profession of medicine. As a woman and as a black woman, and especially in the field of anesthesia, I was always told, oh, you'll never do that. Actually, when I interviewed for a medical school when I was coming out of college, one of the chairmen for a major medical school told me, you'll never become a physician. Point blank, told me I'll never become a physician.
What was the reason? What was his reason?
He felt that I didn't have a 4.0. I had a good grade point average, 3.6. And I did sports, but I did many other things. I didn't just do education, you know, so I didn't just do my studies. I was very well-rounded, did a lot of things. And I just believed that he was a divine test on my path. He told me I couldn't, but I always remember what the people that told me I could, my parents.
He actually told you to your face you
He
couldn't?
told me to my face I would never become a physician. He said, you're not equipped to become a physician. I never forgot that. I left that interview in tears for half a second. And then I got out and I got mad. I said, remember basketball, Wendy? Remember when they told you you couldn't play? What did you do? You played and you excelled. So I just used basketball as a template for everything I did in life. And I am a doctor, aren't I?
Well, I'm sure your parents encouraged you a lot.
Absolutely. My parents, my grandparents, a cousin of mine.
And your extended family on President Street.
Absolutely, and my extended family on President Street. So I had positive role models, no doubt. But still, I am an individual, and there are going to be naysayers along your path. I always had the naysayers, but I was always able to overcome that because I was always told, you can do anything you put your mind to.
Now, one of the issues that affects many of our minority kids is the gang culture. How do you deal with helping them to break out of the gang culture?
It's a very difficult, and I'm not going to say that I have all of the answers, but one of the things I try to teach is tolerance. I want kids to know they are too great to be involved with gangs. They have a special divine purpose. And what I try to do is show them that as they work together, they can all excel, because the gang mentality is really about power, exerting your power over others because you feel powerless. What I try to do is say, you all have power, not to exert over others, but to exert over yourself, to propel yourself to live your dreams and fulfill your maximal potential and divine destiny. Once they understand that, wait a minute, I never thought of it that way, it kind of ding, ding, a light bulb goes off. And all of a sudden they realize, wow, I just never looked at it that way. So they're more open to looking at not wanting to go into gangs. There are some that are going to do that. But if we can at least start to extend it so that fewer people are inspired by getting into the gang culture and realize the power lies within.
Now, where do you do Empower? How does someone get involved with working with Empower?
It's been word of mouth, actually, so far. It's been pretty much a grassroots movement. There's a small culture of us that are really trying to change the world and make the world a better place. So it's a group of us really working together. So we kind of tip each other off. I have a lot of friends who are teachers and in the educational system. They'll call me and say, Wendy, I need you to do a presentation for this particular group today. They'll tell me their specific needs, and I will tailor my presentation to that need of that group. And hopefully I can do several presentations, but if I can only do one, I try to get everything that they need into that lecture.
Well, after the presentation, there's a question of the follow-up. Does Empower help with the follow-up?
We try to help with the follow-up as much as we can and have return visits and kind of track those kids' progress through time by speaking with the principals and speaking with the teachers and see how they're progressing to stay in touch. So that's what we have been doing so far. Is it a perfect system? No, but it's a work in progress, and I always welcome suggestions. I always say Mpower is not really my company. I was divinely inspired to work with Mpower through, I believe, a divine purpose. It's a team. It takes teamwork. It takes all of us working together. And I always welcome people to offer solutions that I may not have and offer themselves to help build this team structure around Mpower so we can all affect positive change among youth in our world.
Suppose some of our viewers decide they want to contact Empower and help to empower themselves and other groups. How would they do that?
They can just go to my website, www.mpowerproductions.com, and they can contact me anytime.
Oh, well, certainly technology is a good part of this. In addition to the work that you do with speaking and motivation, do you do any programmatic work such as mentoring students and things like that?
That's what we're moving toward. You know, it's a work in progress, as I said, but we are moving toward having a full-fledged mentoring program. I invoke the help of friends, actually, who are in different walks of life. And if I have to have someone speak about, let's say, being a lawyer, then I'll call in friends who are a lawyer to come and lecture the kids on how to become a lawyer. So I phone a friend and get them to come in and assist me in the process. Teamwork.
Well, there are many organizations like the 100 Black Men, the 100
Yes.
Black Women, the Y, and so on, that it seems to me would benefit from this type of.
Absolutely.
As a matter of fact, they call the motto of the Boys Club of America is a positive place for kids.
Absolutely.
And that's what you're talking about, positive things that young people can do. One of the issues that we face is in many communities we are under-resourced.
Yes.
We don't have enough teachers, we don't have enough social workers, we don't have enough youth workers, we don't have enough coaches. That means that the adults need to step up. Do you do anything to help adults step up?
I absolutely do. And I encourage all people in all walks of life, colleagues, friends, people I meet by chance, and invite them to be mentors and assist in this process of empowerment. Like I said, I phone a friend. It's teamwork. I can't do it all. And I shouldn't have to do it all, but I can do my part. And to create a domino effect and invite others to do their part. And if we each do our part, that translates into major change.
Well, one of the major ways that people have done their part is to get people to vote.
Oh, for sure.
And that really has reflected in terms of the change of the political establishment. Shirley Chisholm was the first woman to run for president.
That's right.
And now we have an African-American president. So that these people didn't get to where they are just by giving speeches. They had skills.
Absolutely.
Now, how do you get these young people to focus on their schoolwork? You talked about basketball and dance and singing, but in the final analysis, to pass the SAT, you've got to know your math and you've got to know your language. So what do you do with that?
What I do is I encourage them to focus on their dream. Follow your passion, you'll find your dream.
But the problem is, for so many, the dream is just sports and they ignore their academics. What do you do to get them to focus on academics?
What I get them to do to focus on academics is, even if they start with sports, unfortunately, it's the biggest thing in our culture. You have to be an athlete. You have to be a celebrity. What I tell them is that there are doctors, there are lawyers, and I bring those people in to speak with them and show them.
And there are teachers.
And there are teachers, which are the most important, and I show them there are other avenues where we can excel. It's not just about sports. And let's say you start off with basketball. My example, I started off wanting to be a basketball player and an entertainer, and that's way before Facebook.
You still are an entertainer.
Absolutely, and that's way before Facebook. But I also was told that I had to get an education, and in getting an education, it may lead me in the path towards sports or entertainment, but having the foundation of education affords you choices. Now you have choices that you can make. And so I tell them, you may want to be a basketball player, but let's understand not everybody is going to be a professional athlete.
Well, one thing, however, is that basketball players are important in terms of entertainment, but teachers and firemen and accountants and bankers are more important in terms of the development of our community. So I'm concerned that we put so much emphasis on sports and not enough on being the best student. Do you work with some of those? How do you work with that?
I absolutely work with that. And again, it's leading them toward defining their passion. I said, okay, so follow your passion. Now, how do you know that math isn't something that you need for that passion? So pay attention in your math class, because that may be very important to get you to go on your way toward your dream. But if you're not paying attention in math, you may miss a vital piece that helps you get through toward your dream. Science class, how do you know that there's something that you're going to learn from the teacher as a professional teaching you science, or just motivating you as a teacher, that there may be a piece that they lend toward your dream? How are you going to know if you're not there? You might find that you like science after that. You follow your dream for one thing and may end up liking something else.
Now, to what extent do you have them write down what they want to do.
Everything.
And how they're going to get there. Because once you write it down, you can always go back to it.
Absolutely. I have them make a list of all of their dreams. They must define their dreams. Again, there's a questionnaire. What is your dream? What are your talents? What are your abilities? What do you feel are the obstacles that will prevent you from getting there? Who inspires you? What do you see yourself doing in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? And I help them scientifically approach their dreams. And that way they can look at it from a stepwise fashion. I always remember saying when I was a kid, don't let the mountain fool you. Don't let it scare you. Because you see this mountain and you think you can't climb it. But if you take it one step at a time, as you look up, you can say, wow, I'm almost at the top. And that's how I approach success. That's how I approach realization of dreams. It's more palatable. It's easier to grasp one step at a time.
Today on African American Legends, we've been talking with Dr. Wendy Ward about Empower and how we can help young people to be better people and more successful. Thanks for being with us today, Wendy.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Brown. I truly appreciate it.
Very good.